All right, I think we're going to get started here in just a second, guys. Well, everybody, welcome to another panel, Gaming Girls and Global Impact. I am joined by full guest speakers, and I'm just going to quickly introduce yourselves, tell me a little bit more about you, and share with the audience about who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, so go ahead.
To it, I was just about to suggest that Ricky goes first, but I will go first. Thank you. I am Dr. Vanessa Enoch, and I am a management and technology consultant here in Westchester, Ohio, and very active and engaged in various aspects of technology. I also am very interested in our topic today in working and talking about engaging with technology and how us as women really have to be active and engaged in that space. But there, some of the other things we're going to talk about today. I have worked in the background and doing some of this stuff over the past several years. And so my background, I have a master's degree in business administration and a PhD in public policy and social change. And so I have been active and engaged in my community here to empower women and girls, as well as people in various predominantly minority communities. And so I am excited to be able to engage in this conversation, and hopefully I can contribute positively and also learn from my panel today. So thanks again for having me, and I will turn it over to Ricky. Looks like he disappeared off the screen. But Ricky, you can go ahead and chime in now.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Vanessa. Hopefully you guys can see me, and the feeling's mutual to learn from the panel. And in short, I think the world is starving for women empowerment. I think 2020 and 2021 is the greatest time in human history to be alive. I don't think we'll ever have another time to acquire new skills, expand our minds to what's possible, but also to grow relationship capital. And for me personally, I'm a speaker. I speak all over the world, mostly on mindset fitness and health and wellness. I have a couple keynotes called Mindset Fitness, Prosperity Planning, Utopic Health, and also recently Women Empowerment. And the long story short was I was at a World's Greatest Motivator with my biggest motivators and mentors in the world, John Assaraf, Jack Canfield, Les Brown, David Meltzer. And it was a woman who said one line at the 3-day event, and it was my biggest takeaway of the entire weekend. And it was Shanda Sumter. She's on my wall. I have a wall of mentors. And Shanda Sumter said, I actually believe I can change the world. And there's no doubt in my mind that if Jack, John, Les, Dave had said that, it wouldn't have had the same effect on me. It was because I was hearing it from a different source that typically, for the vast majority, we don't hear those things from those sources enough. And I've remembered that it was one of those asterisk moments of like, man, that was strong. And wow, that was powerful. And one of my biggest mentors also was a 9-year-old violinist named Karolina Protsenko. And I'll be able to help and guide Karolina, my whole life, but she's going to want more strong women, thought leaders, women empowerment, women entrepreneurs to help her and guide her in ways that I will never be able to. So that was a little bit of an asterisk moment for me. But so when I go to an event, it's like 98% men. And my goodness, it's almost, I'm starving for it. And I know the world is starving for it for selfish reason. It's just an increased quality of life. And, the things that I have learned from women the last 6, 12, 18 months has been life-changing for me. So if it helps me, I know it can help a lot of people. So that's kind of just where my little journey has come from. And I gave up a very comfortable job a long time ago to go down the full-fledged, scary, unpredictable, uncomfortable road of entrepreneurship. And it's been a huge game changer for me, and women have helped me many times along the path. So the best way I know to honor them is to pay that forward. So thanks for having me, and I'll pass it off to Nate.
Hi everyone, Nate Lombardi here, calling on the road to Philadelphia Airport. Very excited to learn from this panel. I am also a huge feminist. I believe that women are going to lead us and save the world, and anything that I can do to help empower them, the better off we are as a world. I come from a background of performance. I also come from a background of education. I work in some of the most underserved communities in the country: Flint, Michigan, Harlem, Bronx, Far Rockaway. How I got into the gaming space was actually by listening to the kids that I work with and trying to go there and put some spinach on their pizza, man. That's what I'm all about. So I'm a member of Nexus Global, and I was going to the United Nations a bunch when Black Panther and Wonder Woman came out. And I thought to myself, how do we really give the kids what they want? They are into Fortnite. They are into YouTube. They are into TikTok. That's what they do. That's where they choose to spend their time. So how do we use gaming and Minecraft and things to foster empathy and really engage them where they want to be? So since then, I've been working with some really top people in the comic book industry. I have a lot of connections in the TV and film world, and then I've engaged some people in the gaming space, Hyperkinetic Studios, and I just had an amazing conversation with someone before this call.
Tech. So I'm very focused on
augmented
reality
and the future of gaming
and empowering underrepresented countries
and getting
the technology
out and about.
How do we use that
to
social impact?
That's where I focus. Thanks for having me.
Excited. We've got a very intriguing panel here. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Ashi Mittal, and I'm going to be your cruise director on this wonderful journey as we talk about gaming girls and impact. So you guys have spoken a great deal about what you guys are already doing in this space, involving speaking engagements, the types of clients, the connections, and things of. For me is, as we've spoken about what you're individually doing to create this global impact. Let's talk about women in education. Let's talk about girls in education. What role in women's and girls' education initiatives requires a great deal of more focus? All right, so we're talking about women education and girls' education playing a greater part in creating this beautiful future. What areas of focus need to concentrate on to make sure that we uplift, amplify, and really leverage and utilize those skills? I'm going to throw this one to Ricky first.
Awesome. Well, I look at the world through a mental lens that will help us and empower us. So what I would say is, I think the mental game of it and the vulnerability game of it, I've heard this a number of times and I really like it, that vulnerability is the new leadership. And I think one of the greatest skills on the planet, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's mentally, whether it's in the real world, whether it's wherever it comes from, I think the greatest skill we can possibly have on the planet is asking for help. So when we ask for help in general, you have men that have this super masculine kind of like, I can do it myself, I don't need help. When a woman starts asking for help, no matter what it may be, maybe it's in gaming, maybe it's raising capital, whatever it is, whatever the arena is, I think that can inspire people to, number one, be vulnerable, and two, ask for help. So that kind of focus or education, that, in my opinion, is the most valuable education that we can possibly ever have, because it opens up an entire world of opportunity and possibility. Now, when women start doing that, they can set a trend that really opens up a world living in potential and possibility. Instead of, if we wanted to talk about pandemics, let's talk about negativity, let's talk about limiting beliefs, let's talk about, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the money. So when we switch that paradigm into potential and possibility, it opens up just a whole nother world of contribution and everything like that. So in my opinion, I think the greatest education women can really do is lead by example and asking for help. And then when they're given that help, because it will happen, then what can they do? What else can they do? Now, it's a scary road to go down. And I think that's where the vulnerability piece comes in, because that sounds great. And like, yeah, let's ask for help in this, but it's amazing how many people wouldn't do that. That's why I love Karolina Protsenko. She's 12 years old, and she is the epitome of strength, in my opinion, because she really speaks from the heart, and she's kind of like, in lack of a better phrase, just vulnerable and just saying, this is what I'm doing. She's a 12-year-old entrepreneur. So I think that is a trend that I would love to see, that can stem into women empowerment in a number of different arenas.
Thoughts?
That actually is an awesome question, Ashi. I'm so glad that you raised it, because I think one of the most important things is that women need to begin to engage more in the gaming industry. We need to be more knowledgeable. Men tend to be naturally drawn to gaming, and for some reason, us as women don't engage as much. I used to be a gamer, and I found that it consumed most of my time and energy. A lot of the people who work for me, especially the guys, they are engaged in the gaming world. And what that means is that they're going to have the advantage when it comes to blockchain technology, when it comes to an understanding of Ethereum and all of those things where, those are the growth industries right now. They're where technology is heading. Women need to get engaged in all areas and aspects of gaming to better understand it, because if that's where industry is going, then we need to be there to understand it. We don't need to be left behind, as we are often. And I already see the writing on the wall. We need to be engaged as far as risk management is concerned in that industry. And in every aspect of the gaming industry, we lag behind. And so just educating us on what it's all about, right? On understanding the digital tokens and digital coins and all of that is going to be important to being able to engage going forward in what's happening right now as far as technology and the movement of technology. So that's what I think.
And I'm just going to step in back with some of these answers and say, look, it's not even just about the technology, it's about education as a whole, or that holistic approach of what education provides individuals, right? We have these shocking statistics, right? The UN is always great at shocking all of us. As somebody who's worked with the UN, I trust me, these numbers never seem to cease shocking and scaring all of us to heck and back. But the truth of the matter is, we're dealing with situations where education will teach you how to think and how to make decisions. We're not just talking about confidence, as you brought up, Rudy. We're not just talking about not being left behind, Dr. Enoch. We're talking about the approach of even sexual health, child care, right? Women who've got education are 2/3 more likely to raise their children out of poverty and have better health care, even during prenatal care, right? There are so many statistics out there that surround that. So before I toss it to Nate, I'm going to amend this question just for a second. Education as a whole, not just blockchain, not just tech, not just internal lessons, but as a whole, Nate, what do we focus on when it comes to girls and which women's education initiatives worldwide?
Okay, great. Well, I think that it's very difficult to separate education as a whole and technology. And let me explain that, because half the jobs that exist right now won't be around when these kids grow up, and half the jobs that they're going to have, we don't know what they are yet. So the technology and education go hand in hand, and I think it's really a matter of access. A lot of women don't have the access. A lot of minorities don't have the access to this technology. And that's what Doc was talking about. And how do we really give them that type of access and give them encouragement? Because even though 41% of the women, 41% of the market of gamers is women, right? There's a very small amount of women that are in the tech space and gaming space. So how do we equal that out? How do we give them more opportunities? How do we give better represented people more opportunities? And as far as education, and with gaming and education in the whole, you can do so much with the technology that exists now, and it's going to grow so much more with the technology that is coming. Whether it's through the 5G, and whether it's dealing with really developing countries being able to give them the iPads or laptops. And it's proven that women are what you should focus on. Young women are what you should focus on to lift communities up. Usually men are causing the problem. Young men are causing the problems. Women are the ones to lead it. So how do you help women lead and give them the resources, but at the same time help men support the women and stay out of trouble a lot, and oftentimes. Do you hear me?
That is absolutely beautiful, Nate. We will be addressing a couple of those points in our conversation. So those great tidbits that Nate just threw out, keep in the back of your head, because they'll be coming around back to our Robin, because we've talked about what needs to happen, guys. But let's bring this train back up to the platform and talk about what progress has been made. All right, we talk about women making up 2/3 more than 2/3 of the world's population of illiteracy. So we're talking about over 796 million people being illiterate worldwide. We're up to more than 2/3. But while we're seeing these statistics where we need to show improvement, what progress do you think has been made? Ricky? And you're muted, Ricky.
What progress has been made and has made in that arena? I mean, I think for the most part, progress has been made in terms of there's awareness. I think all of this change has to happen with awareness first. We have to have awareness, or we want to have awareness that we can get access. There are ways to get access. And I think that stems back to asking for help, but also finding mentorship. I think there are more women mentors now than there were before. A friend of mine, Heather Monahan, she grew up and she's a great sales trainer and speaker. She speaks at Harvard. And when she was growing up, she had no women mentors to do that. Now there's lots of them. And I've connected people looking for mentorship, women mentorship specifically, to women mentors. So I think that's one of the biggest progresses that I see, is that there are more. Is it where it needs to be? Absolutely not, in no way, shape, or form. But it is more women mentors, thought leaders, coaches than there was before. And I think where the world's going today, there's more opportunities for entrepreneurship now. So I think the awareness is rising, say, hey, I can do this too. And seeking out more women mentorship is a huge part of that process. But I think having that awareness, number one, and then there are more women coaches than there were before. I think that's a huge step in the right direction.
What do you think? Where have we seen progress? Yes, as these points to me, yes, you made it. Absolutely. What progress?
Where's the progress? Well, I mean, when we think about the opportunities that are available now for women that weren't around in the 1950s and 1960s and 1970s, there are tons more opportunities for women that were really not given the chance to run companies. Now we have some of the most important leaders in the world that are women running it. It's proven in COVID with what happened with what countries dealt best with COVID. It was women-led nations, right? And with the tech that exists, with the gaming, with the different types of tech that exists already, there's a lot more opportunities for women. A lot of people are focused on that. Leaders like Jacqueline Novakratz, and leaders that are doing amazing things for underrepresented communities. Also, in communities that I work in, Harlem and the Bronx, many of the women are the teachers. Many of the women are the social impact leaders. And they're the ones that, like you were talking about, Ricky, are the mentors. But I mean, it's hard for me to say where the progress has come in decades. But since I've been around, the woman voice that I've seen, and how the strength and the access, and it really has to do with politics as well. I was elated when our vice president was elected, and I think that global leadership, just having women in charge of things, automatically that will then start equaling the playing field and having those strong leaders prove what is possible.
Dr. Enoch.
Right. Awesome. Wonderful, wonderful responses from the men on this panel, Ricky and Nate. Thank you. Let me say this. I think that COVID did us a wonderful service in closing some of the technology gap and putting technology in the hands of kids in urban communities, as well as kids in rural areas that didn't have access to technology before. So many of many of the lower income kids who were mostly impacted by the technology gap now have access to technology. It also heightened awareness about the need for bringing better access to technology. The other thing that I have seen happening over time is that African American women are now the fastest growing educated populace in the US. Now, the challenge with that is that although we are the fastest growing in terms of education, we're at the bottom of the list in terms of jobs and income. We are the most unemployed and have the lowest income among all groups in this country, even though now we are the most educated. So I think it presents some opportunities to better educate people, to better engage people in what's coming down the pike now that the groups that are most impacted are now becoming educated. So I think that those are probably some areas of progress that we have to applaud and we have to consider. And we need to take advantage of the opportunity that now that folks are getting educated, to make sure that we're steering them in the direction of industry and making sure that folks are gaining competencies in the tech space, because it is one of the fastest growing and the most important areas of our economy globally. I think the last thing I will say is that COVID brought us together globally, right? We now have access to one another, where Ricky and Nate are in one part of the country or the world, and Ashi and I are in another part of the world, and we're all having a conversation, right? And a lot of that has happened over the past year and a half, really because of COVID. And so I think we can, definitely capture those moments and recognize that change is imminent because of the opportunities that have been presented through that unfortunate global pandemic. But, I think we can seize on those opportunities.
Because we're sitting here listening back, guys, to the concept of technology and the concept of what's happening here. And Nate, you said it earlier, we're talking about this concept of the digital divide, all right? There are parts of this world that obviously have a major correlation, right? And definitely a gap in needs of this digital divide. And COVID just amplified it, it compounded it. Obviously, in places like the Middle East and Africa, we are seeing a great deal of digital divide comparatively to other parts of the world. So bringing it on to technology and coding and blockchain and gaming, why are those important? Because when we sit here and we talk about the attendance in primary or secondary school with even young girls in Morocco, classic example. Obviously, after the age of 8, their record of attendance is less than 34% because they're having to get water into their communities, into their homes. They're not attending school. But if they were exposed to technology, iPads, gaming, coding, etc., what is that going to be for them? What is that going to be for them in regards to the building blocks in the future. Nate, I'm going to pass this one off to you.
I take this one last. Just give me just a.
I think he said, can you take that one last? And Dr. Vanessa, did you hear the question?
I did not.
Okay. And this
So
is
repeating the question. Technology, coding, gaming, important. Building blocks for girls in education.
What the issue is, but I'm having trouble hearing. Ashi broke up
Ashi,
a lot.
Yeah.
I am, well, Ashi, you're cutting out like every third word, but I think I got the question. So this is the world we live in, is adaptation pivoting. So if you guys can hear me, I think I have the question. And she's asking technology and how does that as a building block for girls at a young age? All the technology, the blockchain and technology of all that stuff, how learning that at a young age, how is that a building block for girls and women? Ashi, can you give me a thumbs up if I butcher the question? What is that, paraphrasing, is that correct?
And Ashi, you're muted right now, so if you're talking, we can't hear you. Okay, so
Here. Why are technology, coding, and blockchain important building blocks for girls in education? Hey, got it. We got it in the chat.
Got it. Okay, wonderful.
Go ahead, Dr. Vanessa, share that with you.
So I would say that these are the fundamentals of understanding the technology. And so any opportunity to give girls access and to help them understand that will help them understand everything else that's happening in that space. So if that's missing by the same token, then of course, girls are gonna when they grow up, they're gonna be they're gonna lack the understanding needed to understand everything else that's happening in the technology space, like Bitcoin, all of the different digital currencies, as well as what's going to happen in the banking industry and the mortgage industry, and you know, very much like when I was a kid, we had rotary dial phones. And I remember when we got our first touch tone phone, and we've now moved away from those phones to smartphones. And, you know, and very quickly in, you know, every industry, there is going to be a need to understand blockchain, to understand digital currencies and tokens and various coding languages and such. Whereas right now, people can get away kind of without understanding and knowing those kinds of things. It will soon become a need that if you don't have those kinds of skills, where you won't even be able to engage in just anything happening on the day-to-day. Everything's going to be automated and being run by machines and robots, et cetera. We see the writing on the wall right now. Cars are going to be self-driving. So if you don't understand technology, you're definitely going to find yourself not able to engage in the economy. And so I can pass the torch on to whoever wants to take it from here.
Yeah, I'll get that. And I see some of the other questions here, so I'll kind of help facilitate with the technical challenges. But I would say the reason why technology, coding, blockchain is important building blocks for education is it speaks to one word: innovation. And I remember watching a documentary about Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, and how he was, when he was young, he just played. He just played around with the technology, and him and Steve Jobs were in the garage and just kind of playing around with different things, experimenting and trying and failing. And it really led to innovation. And that's one of the things, like, my goodness, when you think of what the computer looked like 20, 30 years ago, And what it looks like today, that's maybe where we're at in some of these girls that are being brought up with this technology can learn at such a young age and be facilitators for people that are a lot older than them. I know myself, I've hired people that are a lot younger than I am to help me understand things like social media. So maybe in the future, that's the building block really speaks to innovation and skill set that's going to be a massive kind of, I would say, needed in the economy in some way, shape, or form, and women can really lead that charge. So to be innovative and to be experimental and all those things with technology, coding, and the blockchain, they're already miles ahead of a lot of people just from being at the age of being brought up on that. So to have access to it and to have mentors in that space, I think can really, really help the future for all of it. So that's how I feel. Now, Ashley, do you want me to ask the next question?
Let's test this. Hopefully you can hear me back from technological difficulties. Yay, I love hearing my own voice. I love hearing everybody else's voices too. Fantastic. So where we leave off, we're talking about obviously technological benefit in education, right? But what I really want to see and hear some conversations is the future of gaming being incorporated into education. We talk about gamification. We're talking about the gaming industry being this multi-billion-dollar industry. We're talking about hackathons. We're talking about gaming tournaments. We're talking about impact and changing for good and all these wonderful things. But what I want to talk about is how do each of you see gaming as being relevant, beneficial, and important to the way of learning and teaching in the field of education? I know, Nate, I know you come right back onto the really great question. So I'm going to pick you first, just so that's going to be a question heading towards the great Nate Lombardi.
Well, for me, it is literally everything. I grew up an ADD kid, and I was very, I was able to get by, but seeing what we have access to now and the different ways of learning, whether it's experiential, audibly, visually, but when you're playing video games, when you're doing something that engages every sense, it is so much more impactful and so much more effective. And there's incredible stuff coming down the pike with VR. I'm very focused on AR, so we can take our phones out and communicate in real life. That's happening very quickly with Moore's law and what's happening. It is unbelievable. And video games, actually, people give it a bad rap, like it's melting kids' brains or humans' brains, but it's really not. When you really look at the stats, there are a lot of benefits from gaming. Also, community-wise, right? Socially and emotionally, there are communities online worldwide that people have great times and great friends in this community, and there's toxicity in it. We could talk about the toxicity and how that's being addressed, but the positive side is overwhelming with what you can do with it, and that's where I'm focused on technology, and it can be applied with anything. Gamification can happen in almost any arena if you have the right imagination. So that's where I spend all my time. I know how quickly even my 8-year-old and my 5-year-old niece and nephew are able to learn stuff, and they're way ahead of where I was and where we were as elementary school kids. So I would love to talk a lot about this because it's what wakes me up in the morning.
Ricky, let's talk about that for a second. Once again, involvement in the classroom. Gaming, is it beneficial? Is it relevant? And Nate brings up a great point. Talking as to the concept of the toxicity, the negativity, and the stereotypes that are out there. How is it going to affect the future of education? You're muted, Ricky.
He's saying some really profound stuff. We just can't hear it, right?
Good, okay. I keep muting because I breaking up a little bit again, but then I was like, I had some noise in the background. I think Nate hit a key word, community. So when the negativity comes, it's just a matter of perspective. I can see two things, the same exact thing, two different lenses, one's positive, one's negative. I can look at 2020, I can say it's the worst time to be alive, I can say it's the greatest time to be alive. Same experience, two different perspectives. So when Nate talks about community, I don't know if there's a more powerful thing in the world today to have community of people that are like-minded, but also that you can learn from. So I think gaming brings community, which brings synergy, which brings collaboration, which brings growth, which brings innovation. And that kind of trajectory, in my opinion, is a great quality of life. It's where people want to go. I don't want to be the same person I was yesterday. I don't want to be the same person I was a month ago or a year ago. And gaming allows that community to not be the same person that they were. And it allows people to get out of their comfort zones. And when people don't understand it, as more people adopt it, it becomes the norm. And I think that can be super powerful in the trajectory that gaming can really bring everybody, women, men, synergies, collaborations, innovation, all those types of things stems from community of like-minded people that want to learn and want to contribute. So those, I think that's a huge part of the education, of the innovation, of all of it. But it all starts with community, because as a community grows and the negativity gets lower and lower and lower, and increasing the quality of life, it's only a matter of time to see people say two of my favorite questions: what are you doing and how are you doing it? And then when we have that community that is willing to adopt more people and say, hey, come learn about it. You know, and one of my favorite lines is, hey, judge me when you're perfect. So when we have that kind of unapologetic, like, hey, something awesome is happening here. Something awesome is going on. If you want to come be a part of it, great. If not, no worries. But there's people helping people. And I don't know if there's a stronger message in the world than that. And that stems from what Nate mentioned, was community. So I think that's one of the biggest, strongest and cohorts of that gaming industry in education.
Follow up.
So could you repeat your question again? I do want to follow up and comment on what they were saying, but I want to make sure that I engage with your actual question.
Went back to the relevancy of gaming in the classroom, the teaching education, and also dealing with the stereotypes that come with the gaming industry, the negativity and the toxicity that Nate alluded to a couple of moments ago.
Awesome. Thank you. So I think that gaming is going to become a very important aspect of how children are going to learn going forward. I also believe that just like, virtual spaces were shunned by some of the universities at first, by schools at first, that more schools are using technology, and kids that are graduating from college right now are engaging with technology like never before. They're going to bring a paradigm shift, and we need to be ready for that shift. And I think that anytime anything new happens, that there's always a stigma associated with that new thing. And especially because people don't understand technology. And as people do come into a better understanding, I think that it is going to become as common for us as using a computer right now. Where I remember a time where my friends thought I was weird and I was a geek because I was into computers when I was in junior high school. And that's when computers were they weren't even GUI. So you couldn't see, anything graphical. It was all text-based. And they were using terms like Archie and Veronica and so on and so forth on DOS systems. And how we changed. We're no longer in that space anymore. Things have changed. People are using technology. Your refrigerator right now could have a computer integrated. Everything in my home is technology based right now. I could tell the lights to turn off right now. I could ask Google what time it is. I can, whatever, because now computers have become so much a part of everything we do. so much a part of the way that we live. I have a mouse in my car, so we can't avoid the changing times. We can't avoid bringing computers into the classroom space. So I think we need to embrace it. In fact, when you travel to other countries, they are making better use of technology than we're using here in the US. We have people from all over the world coming into the US as our workforce right now because we have not embraced technology the way that we should and the way the rest of the world has. So if we want to compete, we want to continue to be part of the global shift and change, we have to embrace technology in the classroom and get rid of those stigmas. The other thing I will say is I remember when my little girl, my youngest child was a baby, and she was so used to swiping on the iPad that we put a magazine in front of her and she couldn't figure out what to do with the magazine. And I had to show her how to turn a page where she had been so accustomed to just swiping, and she's looking at the magazine like, what is this thing? And for me, that showed me the change that we're going to encounter, and how the world is changing, and how her generation has not only embraced that change, but grown up in this technology and digital space. So that's what I wanted to contribute.
Yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit more about the actual games and companies that are doing amazing stuff while we're waiting for Ashi to come back. So, I mean, there's this great company called Games for Change that they're doing it's a nonprofit. They're very focused on that. I saw Assassin's Creed. If those of you know, it's a historical fiction game, and you can also play in the safe mode, where you're just learning about the history of these times. Games are the fun of and the amazing thing for me about games, even games like Grand Theft Auto. There are kids that now know every street in Los Angeles, even though that's not really the most positive game to play. It's super fun, and there are kids that can navigate as a taxi cab driver through LA. And Minecraft teaches building skills, and there are companies, Netflix, and there are other huge companies that this is their ethos. Niantic is very focused on teaching through games and community and exercise. So this is a massive industry, 2.5 billion gamers, and if you want to get more granular, there's different gamers that learn different things from different types of games. So it really is so massive that to talk about it in a broad stroke is difficult, because a Minecraft player doesn't have to be a Pokemon Go player, doesn't have to be a 3 gamer, which doesn't have to be a first-person shooter gamer. So there's so much to break down about the education, and how each one has the possibility of not only educating them about technology, but educating them about the world, but educating about each other. I would love to have this conversation again with the head of Activision, and what they're doing at Activision, and what they're doing at Niantic, and what they're doing at different other Epic. So every company has this social awareness in mind, and education, and the power of their technology. And I can say from an outsider's point of view, who's getting into it, they're on the case, and it's happening at a really rapid speed. So that's very encouraging, and we are in good company.
And Nate's making me want to, look at Assassin's Creed and some of these other things that I have not engaged with, just to, because I could get sucked into this vortex, this gaming vortex. And I know that because I have before. And I know that our young people this is the life that they live. And so if education does not, well, you know what? There's no question. Education is already embracing these things, because the education community is now coming out of school, this new paradigm is happening, because the people who are coming out of school right now, this is how they engage, this is how they learn, this is what their interest areas are. And so it's happening. I think Ricky's talking again, but he's playing that game. What's it?
I'm gonna get it by the end of this. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna learn the unmute button. I think I can facilitate the next question. Thank you, guys. So the next question would be: what would you tell young women considering a career related in some way to gaming? Repeat it again. What would you tell young women considering your career related in some way to gaming? And why don't we start with Dr. Enoch? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right.
Yes, absolutely. I think one of the things that young women need to be thinking about is digital tokens, and that the impact that digital tokens are going to have on the direction of gaming and industry. Also, and I'm forgetting what they're called. Oh goodness gracious, the pictures, trading, like they're trading cards. My mind is drawing a blank right now, where you can use, say again.
Not Pokemon cards, is it?
No. The cards that you can use, or the tokens you can use to move from game to game right now. Like if you want to say, I buy a sword in one game, I can use it in other games. What is it called? What is that technology called? Oh, you guys are not helping. Okay, so anyway, if I think about it before we're done here, I'll remind you, because I'm having a senior moment right now, so I'm drawing a blank, but it is a growing area of technology, virtual reality, automation, all of those kinds of things are things that we want to encourage girls to engage with and get into.
I'm up.
Go ahead.
You bring it home, Ricky. I'll go.
Yeah.
So as we were talking about earlier, the gaming space is about 40% women, 41% women, depending on who you ask, and the women in the creation of games is very low, and the different types of games that are played between women, and the pressure in the different subsects of gaming is a big deal, and those stats are really interesting, actually. The cool thing about gaming and the cool thing about this type of tech is, if they're given the right education, they don't need to fit into any boxes. They can just go and create. They can go and create something. Minecraft was basically created by one dude who sat there and was gaming and put it out, and then everybody started giving him comments and feedback, and he started building and building and building, and it, now he owns $120 million mansion, right? And it's the thing is you can, if you have the skills and tech, then you can go and do that as a young woman who's interested in it, and can start something and not have to deal with the restrictions. The gaming world, as creators, is it's a very crazy kind of world. The people that are in the world of gaming, they do this crunch for like the last month of gaming, where they will work 80 to 100 hours a week. It is not a glamorous job, but people, to work in the gaming space is kind of cool, but the behind the scene is very it's not that sexy. And it's very, very male dominated. So how do we get our women into that space? And then how do we also learn how to treat the game developers better, right? In more reasonable circumstances. That's kind of just the name of the game right now for a lot of developers, at the top level all the way down. So I guess my answer would be, if we can give them the technology and the starting skills and the support in this world, to the moon, they can do whatever they want. And there's a huge organization, Girls Who Code. There's a lot of information. Technology doesn't And you know, a lot of the women in these online communities will use different names. They will use names that don't let them out, let them be known as a woman, because there is toxicity in that, depending on like if it's a first person shooter game. So yeah, I guess it's all about supporting Girls Who Code and other organizations that are on the case for putting this technology and knowledge into our young women.
Awesome.
Before you go, Ricky, let me just say, before I have another senior moment, the word I was looking for was NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and other digital assets and digital tokens. I think it's important that women get engaged in that whole area, that whole industry. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll piggyback on that a little bit. And what I would tell young women regarding and looking at gaming is, why not? Like, why not? Why not take a shot or take a look at it? And I'll say this, you know, Dr. Enoch, one of the biggest takeaways I've taken in the last 40 minutes is a strong African-American woman saying that COVID did a wonderful service for us. Just that perspective alone, because we're in this arena right now and we're looking for innovation, that is an incredibly strong one sentence thing. So if somebody's listening to this, why not get involved in gaming? You're going to learn something, whether it serves you for the rest of your life or whether that becomes a career, that's up to you to decide, but why not? Because it really can stem some innovation and inspiration in your life. Never mind the business aspect of it, but from a mindset perspective and a growth perspective, it's incredibly powerful, I think. So the last question will be, what is the biggest change you want to see in the world? Very simple question, but magnanimous one at that. So what is the biggest change that you want to see in the world? And Dr. Enoch, we'll start with you.
So I want to see everybody in America, I want to see us live up to our creed, where all men and women are created equal, and where everybody has access to opportunity. When I was a kid, that's what I learned America was all about. But as an adult, I've learned that that's not absolutely true. That there are many young people, many kids who come from poor families, from Black families, and other minority communities that don't have access to opportunity, and intentionally so. And so I want to see that shift. I want to see us really live up to who we say we are. I will say this to Ricky, as you talk about the opportunities that I'd mentioned earlier, I think about my mom, who refused to use a credit card or a bank card when they first, when she, just as it was growing, the banking industry, she just refused to engage that way. She refused to use the internet. Never, she said, I'm not interested in it. And then when COVID hit, in order to go and purchase something at Best Buy, they stopped her at the door and said, "Ma'am, you have to get that on the internet, and then you can pick it up here in your car. Somebody will bring it to your car." And she says, "Well, what are people like me supposed to do?" And when she called me to tell me the story, I said, "Do exactly what you're doing and call your daughter, who can order it online, because that's the way I've been doing business for years." And so for people who aren't interested in gaming and in the technology as it's growing, they won't know how to work their cars, they won't know how to work their televisions, and it's happening already. So, change is imminent. And if you want to engage in what's happening in the world, you have to engage in technology. So that's what I would say.
Very much. I love that. It's a great story, applicable story. And Nate, what's the biggest change in the world?
And Nate, you're doing the charades game, right?
Yeah. I love your answer. I want to piggyback on that. I think in Africa, over half the population is under 25. It's a crazy number. Second largest continent in the world. And they in Rwanda, they're already using cell phones to tip homeless people. Their technology is a real way to equalize things, and to help people get ahead. They need electricity, they need resources, they need the tech. And once they're given, the world can change so quickly. For me, the biggest change I want to see in the world is because the technology is happening at such a rapid pace with Moore's law, with what the kids are able to do, with what tech is happening, that is going to take care of itself. I'm completely sure that we're going to be living in the Minority Report in with 100 years, without question. There's no doubt. Think about it. It's only been 120 years since cars were invented. Look at them now. So technology is going to take care of itself. We are going to create amazing, and already creating amazing things. But if we can't get humans to care about each other, that we are doomed. We are doomed as a race. And so for me, how that happens is through storytelling and getting people to care about each other. How do we foster empathy through technology, through what they're interested in, through what they can do? How do we get a kid in Harlem to care about a kid in China, to care about a kid in Brazil, to care about a kid in Morocco? How do we get that to happen? And it's through storytelling. So there's not just another image on the screen. You care about that person. You feel like you are one with, there's something relevant that connects you, the humanity of it all. And it could be a game. It could be a narrative. It could be, oh my gosh, that happened to your people. That happened to my people too. We're the same. And if we're able to connect people through the existing tech that already exists and will grow and multiply and compound in the next 100 years, then we have an opportunity to actually save our race. Because if not, we have the opportunity to blow each other up and to fight. The polarization that's happening right now is really scary. And you would think, what can we all agree upon? We all love our grandparents. We all love our children. We all want to live a happy and healthy life. So how do we use tech and things that people can agree upon and sprint in that direction? And that's what I want to see in the world. I want to partner with the biggest tech people. I'm going to partner with the best storytellers and make those people synergize to save the actual planet and humans and animals and plants on it.
That's great, Nate. And I'll just piggyback that off and then we'll close. But I think that a dear mentor of mine always says, be more interested than interesting. And in order to get empathy, I would say my biggest change in the world is implementation. I think implementation fuels motivation and inspiration, whereas people are just motivated. They may implement or they may not. So I'll take Nate's kind of call to action is share our own story, but in order to do that, I would say ask people about their story. Be more interested and interesting, and ask people about their story. And it's a way to facilitate you sharing your story. And I think that creates empathy on both ends. So I would say go and implement something and ask people about their story, what they're going through, what they've learned, what mentors that they have, what are some of the vulnerabilities that they have, what are the challenges that they've overcome, what are the successes that they've had. Share your wins, and you can do that in a radical humility standpoint. So thank you guys so much. And, I'll close with this. We are looking to close the digital divide across the world, keenly in Africa and the Middle East. It's time to get involved and support fundraising for girls who code, girls who got game, who can change the world. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate your time, and go girls.
Hey, Ricky, Ricky, let me just say, I like the fact that you added to what Nate said, because what I was also thinking is of the word engagement. We have to engage, because if we don't engage with other communities across the world, then we'll never really feel that connection. We hear stories all the time in school, and the stories are absolutely important, as Nate said. But unless we really truly engage, then we don't, those stories are meaningless to us. They feel like something far off in another, dimension that we can't connect with. So connecting and engaging is also so important. And so that's why I've appreciated this conversation, because you guys are not all in the same place. Me and Ashi are almost in the same city. We're just up the road from each other, but we're not in the same place. And you guys are in different parts of the world. and we're engaging with one another. And I think that that's what's going to change the world. It's going to be the engagement. It's going to be talking to one another. And, you know, you can't have a conversation with someone and not feel connected in some way. You know, there was a lady here in the greater Cincinnati area. She sat on a plane with somebody last month, and that lady died coming out of the airport right when she met her. And then she showed pictures on the internet of her going to the woman's funeral because they engaged with one another. And it mattered to her to travel an hour away to go to that woman's funeral who she had just met because they engaged. And that's what I think is gonna change the world, when people engage like we're engaging right here, right now.
Appreciate that. Fundraising for girls who code, girls who got game, girls who can change the world. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Have a great, great Wednesday.